You're listening to the Women in Motorsports Special Edition episodes by the Racer to Racer podcast presented by Race 92. This episode features Maria Cofer, who also is a USAC midget driver.
Yep, in fact, they were supposed to make their debut last weekend as far as with her new team. I guess they ran last year, but they were supposed to make their debut again for this year last weekend. And unfortunately, the weather has turned very cold in the Midwest and in Indianapolis in particular. And IRP just couldn't have the races. So I don't know when their next race is going to be. I was hoping to be able to kind of say how she did or whatever. But very talented. Comes from a very talented. Um, her father was a great midget racer, so
Yeah.
uh, I didn't realize this time we were talking to her. She had actually was part of the Toyota program at one time, and she was in North Carolina doing the stock cars and that sort of thing. And she's just trying to make a go at it in auto racing. And super nice, good interview. And I wish her nothing but the best.
Oh, absolutely. And special thanks to Dave Goss, who's part of Goss, Beckman. No, it's Cox, Beckman, and Goss, right? The accounting firm. So, and they're actually a sponsor of Maria, and one of the partners of that actually owns her race team. So special thanks to them for helping us get this set up.
Yes, and if anybody needs any tax help, they are the people to go to.
Yep, I have
your
used
taxes
them.
done.
Yeah,
They are great. I've known Dave for 30 years probably. He probably regrets knowing me for 30 years, but I've known him for probably my entire working life. And great group of people, do great work. And they do a lot of auto racing, people in auto racing and race teams. They do a lot of their accounting and tax work.
And Dave is a big fan of Indy kart racing, the Indy 500, big collector as well. So I've known Dave for probably most of my life, to be completely honest with you, because he's been good friends with my dad for a while. So definitely a great guy. And I think definitely a great interview, and definitely hope everyone enjoys.
Yeah, please enjoy.
Our guest today drives the number 57 National Midget car for Abacus Racing. We're joined by Maria Cofer. Maria, thank you so much for joining us. How are you doing?
Well, Aaron, thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. So talk a little bit about how you first got interested in racing.
So my dad used to race dirt midgets. We're originally from California, and my parents are still located out there, but he was a racer back in his day. And so I think I kind of got the bug from him. However, when I got interested in it, he was building dragsters at the time and doing a little bit of like 7.0 Pro stuff out at Famosa Raceway out in California in Bakersfield. And I thought at first I wanted to do junior dragsters. And then he quickly gave me the idea of, no, let's do some circle track racing or dirt racing, something like that. And I just had no idea of it at the time. And so it wasn't until I was older that I did some research on my own and discovered these outlaw karts that they were racing out in Red Bluff, California. And after a basketball tournament, he took me down there on Saturday. And then Monday, we were picking up my first go-kart.
So what'd you say?
Tanner Holmes.
We've
talked to Tanner Holmes, and obviously Tanner runs out there a lot too, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's kind of funny now to be in the league that we're in, and to see all the kids that, or I guess we aren't kids anymore, but kind of be racing against still the same people that we were racing against out in California in go-karts. It's like we all graduated and started racing midgets.
So would you say at that point when you started racing outlaw karts, like, did you have like a goal to, I mean, a lot of kids like say, oh, I want to race in the Indy 500. I want to race NASCAR. Like, did you have a goal at that point or no?
Yeah. I really didn't. I was just doing it more because of a passion and a hobby. I love just spending time in the shop with my dad. And I am super grateful how supportive my parents have been throughout my whole racing career, that, I think they really made a point to make sure that when we were going to the racetrack, there wasn't any pressure and we were just going there to have fun and do something that, you know, my dad and I both love. And so I really think that my career just built off of that type of foundation rather than having, you know, try to strive for goals and stuff like that, which now that's changed a little as it's gotten more serious. But at the beginning, I would say I didn't really, you know, I didn't go in having any specific goal. I was just doing it because I loved it.
Right.
Now you're probably too young to really remember watching your dad race, right? As far as midgets.
Yeah. Yep. He was no longer racing. Really he quit before I was even born. So yeah, I think I went to one Chili Bowl with him, but that was about it. Because he had gotten in a bad accident in Vegas, I believe. And then he quit after that for the most part. So
yeah, I remember watching him a lot on the Thunder races and that sort of thing back in the 90s and that. Great race car driver, fast race cars. I think I was doing a little research. Somebody picked up, like, would that be correct? He picked up his first win though back in the Midwest at Granite City, Illinois.
Yep. Yeah.
That's funny. That's the first racetrack I ever went to after I was born. I was 6 weeks old. Same racetrack.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm from Southern Illinois originally.
Got it. Yep. That's one of his favorite stories to tell. So it used to just be him. At that time, it was him and my grandfather, and then I believe maybe a couple other guys, but they were on the road from California, trucked out there, won that race, and they gave him like a big salami and a pack of beer. And they were supposed to go home. And my grandfather was like, no, we're not going home. We're going to keep racing. And so I think they continued their little, like race trek out in the Midwest from that point. But yeah, that was his first win.
So you ran outlaw carts, and for how long did you run outlaw carts?
Probably for about like 7 or 8 years, I'd say.
So you had quite a bit of time in them. And at that point, when you were kind of getting to the age where, man, maybe I don't know if I want to run these anymore. You know, you obviously had your family had a big background in midgets. Did you think about just go ahead and get in sprint cars, or did you just say, nah, I really want to run the midgets?
Yeah, we did think about sprint cars because those are pretty dominant out there on the West Coast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you definitely get more of a car count and you have a little bit more options of like places to run. You know, where we're based at in California is pretty northern. So we kind of, if we would have gone with a sprint car, it would have allowed us the option to either run, they had a nice little series up in Oregon, or they had one several based in California. So logistically, it kind of made more sense to go the sprint car route. But being that it was just my dad and I always doing, you know, we didn't have any other extra help or crew guys. A sprint car is pretty big. So it would have been a pretty big animal for us to try and tame there at the shop and at the racetrack and things like that. And then with Dad's midget background, it was just a little bit more of a, maybe not comfortable, but just more of a familiar place for us to start and make that transition out of the go-karts. So.
What was your first midget race at?
Let's see. The first one was it was supposed to be at Petaluma. And then we were testing and I got in a terrible accident. I got the first big one out of the way, as my dad would say, right off the bat, knocked the motor out and all of that. And so I think my first one actually ended up being at Placerville or Chico. Yep.
I saw that. I guess that must be that video that's on YouTube. You turned it into one, it biked up and took off.
Yeah, yeah, that was probably like a 8 out of 10 on this scale.
It was hard. It looked hard. Yeah. At that moment there, did you think to yourself, I don't know if I want to do this or not? I mean, because that's always the test. That first big one's always the test.
Yeah. And it really wasn't. That wreck particularly wasn't what, so my confidence was killed because after that big wreck, we went and tested again, and I tipped over, and it was just a little Tommy tip over. But that had crushed my confidence because I was like, man, I can't even wheel this thing by myself, like, let alone when I get out there with a ton of people. But thankfully, I was never scared. Like, I had never been, whether it be in the midgets or the go-karts, like I haven't been scared of, injury or the car particularly. I just had no confidence, which is a tough one because you can't go by that in the trailer. That's a hard thing to overcome. And so after that big accident, no, I wasn't scared ever. And I wasn't nervous to get back in the car, but I was just, I just had no confidence going into it. And that was a tough one to gain. But I think over, after a year or so running out there on the West Coast, we were able to finally get some time under my belt, and I got more and more comfortable as we went on. So
we've talked to some drivers about this. Like, do you think I would feel like it'd be harder to, like, I don't know, it would impact me more, like, to watch another driver get hurt bad than myself, because we talked to, like, James Hinchcliffe, and obviously he's real good friends with Robert Wickens, and he was saying, like, for him, it kind of affected him more to see what happened to Robert than actually what happened to him, because he almost died as well.
Yeah, definitely. And that's an interesting, like, point, because I'd say, like, that's very fair and true to say. It's just something about when you take the blow, it's, what you can, like, what your threshold is. Sure. And what you can overcome. But then if you see just a former competitor or somebody else who's racing, it's just it does hit a little bit differently. So yeah, I would agree with that one.
So you've been around the racing scene, obviously, in, I guess, California and Oregon. Is that what you said? Mm-hmm. That area. And also you've been around a little bit in the Midwest. Like, would you say the racing scene is different over, on the West Coast than it is in the Midwest? Or, is it, I don't know. I've never been around. I've only been around, like, the Midwest. So.
Got it. Yeah. I would say it's pretty similar. End of the day, we all show up to drive around in circles. Sure. On the dirt, and everybody shows up with best intentions, and with intentions of going there to perform at their highest, trying to be as competitive as they can with the best stuff that they can. I would say the biggest difference is just the car counts, and sorry, my dog is snoring down here. But I would say, yeah, the biggest difference in the Midwest is just car count and the frequency of racing that they do. You can rack up 35 or to 50 really races in a season if you want it to. However, on the West Coast, you're doing everything you can to get 20. So that's probably, I'd say, the biggest difference in comparison of the two.
So your first win was at Petaluma?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And that was that 2018?
Yes.
Yeah, I was watching that for anybody who wants to watch a race. 2018, around June of 2018, something like that, right?
Yep.
So at that point there, good competition. David Prickett, Chase Johnson, good drivers. At that point there, it seemed like, and please correct me if I'm wrong, at what point did you decide to come back to the Midwest and do some racing? Was it 2019?
2018.
So you did come back in 2018 as well?
Yeah, I did. I got an opportunity to run for Peachtree Motorsports, was my first opportunity that I had received. And I got the chance to go run a handful of races with those guys in the Midwest or Mideast. And then after that, I ran with Keith a little bit.
When you get your win, and then at that point, I don't know if you'd already been back here running for those guys or not, but at that, I mean, that has to be a huge confidence boost, right? And then especially when you drive for Petrie with Terry Goff, who at the time was turning wrenches, and of course Keith and everything Keith's done. Like getting to start work outside the family race car, and getting to work with these great chief mechanics, and Terry was a great driver, especially in TQs. How would you say that affected the way you started racing? Because obviously family car is one thing, and then when you're in these hired rides, it's a different deal.
It is. And I don't think much has changed per se, like in the way that I race. I think I've always kind of had the same style and attitude and mentality going into a race. It doesn't matter if it's, in a track that 2 people show up or, a big national show. I'm going to race it the same way I would, any other show. But I would say the biggest takeaway from, having the experience with all those guys, I'm so incredibly grateful for each one that I've had, because each one has taught me such a different lesson and has really opened my eyes and made me realize, like, okay, this is how the big dogs do it, or, this is the way this is the big leagues, right? This is the next step. And I'll tell you what, the new Team Abacus Racing that I'll be driving for this year, the take that they're taking and the way that they are going about how they're doing this program and this deal is something very different than I've ever experienced with any other team. And I'm extremely excited, and I think it's going to be, it's going to catch a lot of eyes and it's going to make a lot of noise. And so I'm really looking forward to it.
So yeah, you started running when did that deal come together? Was it last year? Was it beginning of last year, middle of last year?
Let's see. So it came together, I would say probably about May of last year. Just a few, exchange of phone calls, exchange of emails, and then finally a meetup where we met in person. And then our first outing was BC 39 of last year. And then Chili Bowl, and then the West Coast swing, and then Chili Bowl. So yeah, but this is going to be 2022 is really our first launch of committing to a full schedule and season together. So
you're talking a little bit about, or you referred to, national midget racing as the big leagues. One question I ask a lot of drivers is did you have a welcome to the big leagues moment? Just something that happened. For example, we interviewed Jimmy Kite, and for him, when he was driving an IndyCar, his first time, I think it was his first test during IndyCar, he was driving through the pits and he saw Arie Luyendyk's pit board. He was an idol to him growing up. So it was maybe something similar.
Yeah, I would say so. We kind of were talking about previously of the confidence booster that you get after winning at Petaluma. Mm-hmm. Well, we had won that race I think from start to finish by a pretty heavy lead. And so I was feeling pretty confident. I knew that the USAC guys were, it was a different level. But I did feel like I was going to be, pretty good. And then I would say just, you can tell when you walk through the pits, it's different. People are there. I mean, that's how they put food on their plate for dinner. It's, it's their livelihood. And so you can just tell the energy is just different, and they aren't messing around. They're not there to make buddies. You're not there to make friends. You're there to do business and to do your job.
So are you, is your season kicking up? Because you guys didn't run Florida. Am I right in that, or am I wrong? I don't remember you guys going to Florida.
Yeah, we did not go to Florida.
So are you going to start at DuQuoin then in 2 weeks?
So
or next week, I guess it is.
Yeah, we're scheduled to run. Actually, our first outing would be at Lucas Oil in the pavement midget.
Oh, okay.
Yep. And then following that, for the dirt side of things, our first outing would be April 1st and 2nd at Farmer City.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. I didn't realize you guys were doing pavement as well. Oh, that's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. We're super excited for that.
Who's your crew chief on this deal?
So my dad came out here, and then Kirk Simpson out of California as well.
Okay.
Yep.
And I take it you've moved back to Indy for the summer?
Yeah. Yep.
Have you, I mean, is this the first time, I mean, did you go away for college or anything like that? Or is this the first time you've kind of been out of the house like that? Because I know you guys have a ranch out there that you help on the ranch. So,
yep.
That's obviously pretty serious work.
Yeah. So I moved actually from McDowell, California, where the ranch is, where family is, all that. I moved from there 2.5 years ago to North Carolina. I relocated. So I've been away from home, and I'm familiar with it now. I'm comfortable with it. So moving to Indy just feels more like home because we have the race shop here. I can bring my dog with me. My dad comes out here, crew chief comes out here. So, and we have the shop, which wherever the shop is, feels like home to me. So, I like it so far. And like I said, I'm just super excited and thrilled for the season to start.
Now, were you part of the Toyota racing development deal? Is that why you were in North Carolina?
Yeah. Yep. So that was kind of the first reason why I moved out there, was because I had an inkling that, I had access to some pretty cool things that they had, some facilities out there. And I just thought, you got to be where everything is, and you got to be present to be noticed, kind of a thing. And, if something were to happen, I want to make sure I'm there to fill the spot or whatnot. And so that was the first reason why I moved out there. And then over time, I just kind of fell in love with North Carolina. It's beautiful and people are nice. All my friends are there, or majority of them. And then, so yeah, I just decided to stay, even though I kind of stepped away from the Toyota deal. I'm not a part of anymore, but yeah, I'm still there.
Yeah, we've got Jagger Jones is a frequent guest on here, and he's going to school at High Point down in North Carolina. So yeah, he really likes it down there too.
Nice, yeah. Jagger, I think Jagger and I were teammates during one race out in Irwindale, California, in a late model deal.
Oh, with Huddleston?
Yep.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, with Tim, it was fun.
He's a good guy. He ran. Yeah, he had a good weekend. He's doing the USF 2000 thing right now, and he ran 8th and 3rd down in St. Petersburg. So.
Okay. Yeah. Nice. Yeah, that was a really fun experience running with Tim.
Yeah. No, Huddleston's had a good program too. That was a really good program. So you did the Toyota deal, and for whatever reason, you're kind of not part of that anymore. At that, when you kind of cross that bridge, I guess what I'm getting at is, I mean, where do you see yourself in this sport? Do you see yourself still running at 35, or do you have like a time frame in your mind, like, hey, if I'm not where I want to be by this time, I'm gonna do something else?
I think there is, a little bit, I don't want to be 50 and still trying to drive it, but it really just depends where I'm at during that time of my life. So it's hard to say now, but I know that for the next 5-10 years, I'll push as hard as I can to get myself and hopefully Abacus, if we're still together, and all of our sponsors and everybody who's involved, hopefully we can continue to grow and proceed the way that we are with all the momentum that we have. And I mean, who knows, our limit, the sky's the limit. And it might just end up that we become a household name. I don't know. So, I think that's the goal. I don't know where particularly that would be. I don't know if that's the NASCAR route. I'm not sure, but
Sure.
I know that we'll give it all that we have, for 5-10 years. And it just kind of depends how far we make it.
Right. So who are all your sponsors on this on your program?
Well, we have a handful of them, and it's so awesome. I'm so grateful for every single person on that team, because without them, obviously, it wouldn't be happening. And it's so cool how genuine every single one of them are. But we have CBG, which is Brent Cox and his partners. And he's also the owner. And then we have Indy Custom Stone, Viva Tia Maria, Amber Blends, the Ice Barn, Prime 47. We have, and there's a few more I know that I'm not hitting on, but we have a handful of them. Anybody can go and see on the car. They're all listed on there. I have them on my suit. They're on all of our socials in the website. So, yeah.
I've never been to Prime 47, but I would think that'd be a pretty good sponsor to have.
It's pretty good. The food is incredible. That's for sure. It's one place that I always want to go to when I'm in Indy.
With so the pavement deal, of course, you've run pavement now a little bit, and obviously before. How much? So have you guys had much testing yet? Did you test at the end of last year or anything, or do you have any tests coming up before your first race?
Hopefully we can get some testing in. I think that's the plan. However, with like tire supply and stuff, we'll see how that limits us, because that's kind of a factor right now, unfortunately. I think testing is crucial. Last time I was in the pavement car was 2 years ago. Yeah, 2 years ago, at the night before the 500 race at Lucas Oil.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a bummer, because we had tested in California prior and came out there and had a hard time getting stuff to run. So I think hopefully we can get some testing. That would be the plan. That would be the ideal situation. But I do think they'd have one practice night before the race actually happens out there.
Yeah, it's good. You're right. Testing's such a big deal when it comes to pavement, but like you said, and this is something that hard to believe, but getting tires right now, it's not the easiest thing in the world.
And it's sure not with the dirt cars either. So,
right.
Yeah, hopefully that's something they can get resolved, or, find a way to keep like the quantity control under, and, make it to where we can all continue to race on our weekly basis. So.
Yeah, it's tough. That's for sure. I know what was around Chili Bowl time, they were trying to get people to bring tires back so they could take them out there, give you credit for tires you didn't use so they can take them out there and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Do you think that when you really look at it and where you want to go, do you think the payment deal is, because it was gone, especially back here, for so long. We just didn't have any payment midgets or hardly any payment sprint cars or anything like that. There's some wing stuff. Is that something that you're looking forward to doing more of? And I realize it's a small schedule. It's like 4 races, 5 races, something like that, I think. But is that something that you're really looking forward to doing? Is just more of that pavement?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely. I think no matter if it's dirt or pavement, it makes the driver better. Racing is racing, and you want to be diverse. And so, I'm looking forward to the pavement races just as much as I am the dirt. And I'm in a situation where Abacus is doing things so differently than anybody else, and their approach that they're taking is so different that it makes me able to do that within the people that we have behind us and supporting us. we're able to do both of those and kind of go in the different facets of racing. And I'm really excited for it. I think it's important to try and get in any type of car that you can. Even if it's a go-kart or like a pavement cart, I think all that stuff matters. And, you kind of see people like Kyle Larson doing it now with going into the late model stuff, running a sprint car here, running a midget there, running the cup car, I think it's important to kind of get into whatever kind of car that you can, because again, it makes you diverse. And I think that's kind of the key. You got to be able to drive whatever you get in.
Right. So I guess being a female in the sport, like, did you have like any role models, like, like other females, like who have done like what you're doing, or, in higher levels or whatever? Like, has there ever been anyone that, maybe you've talked to regularly or you've got a lot of advice from?
I think all the girls in the motorsports industry, we all get together well, and chat, I don't think there's like one particular. I hope that I'm a good role model to any,
sure,
especially the up and coming racers. I know the sport, it gives it's a tough one, it's pretty hardcore. And so I hope that, anybody, especially the younger generation coming up, they don't ever get discouraged, and, they can see that me, along with all the other females in the sport, as long as you keep pushing and doing what you love, you can make it as far as you want.
Right. So another big part about racing today really is social media. And obviously, we can talk about all the people who have YouTube channels and just interact with people on social media. Like, I guess, what is your kind of approach with social media? Like, do you have, any plans for the future to, really just grow on that front? Because obviously, it helps with branding, it helps with, sponsorship, all that.
Yeah. And that's the key, right? Like, if it was just me, even a year ago, I would have probably told you that I'm terrible at social media and I really don't use it much. I don't look at it much. However, now with the way things have changed and the way time has changed, and, social media has evolved, it really does. It's a huge outlet. You launch one, or you post one video and it gets 60,000 likes, so it just brings that much more exposure to the driver, to the team, to the sponsors, which in the end, that's really the key, right, to this whole thing. That's the winning combination, is to make everybody successful. It's not just about making the driver successful or the team or the sponsor. Like, I think that's kind of the key, and what really makes or breaks something, and also makes it really stand out, is that, all parties are getting benefited from it. And that's just all the more the exposure. So sorry.
What's your puppy's name? No, is that the dachshund that was in the videos, like your home videos?
No, this is I have a big knucklehead now. He's a Rottweiler and his name is Cody. He's about 117 pounds. I can't let him go over 120, because then I have to pay double for his heartworm medication, and that's not happening, because that's not cheap.
No, it's not.
Every time I hear that, I thought that's Scott's stomach growling.
Well, it could be. We talked about Prime 47. I know. I'm a big guy. I like to eat.
I think I'm a little hungry for some Prime 47. Could go for a big steak.
It's a really interesting dream, right? Auto racing, because racers, like, I've never really met somebody who was a driver who didn't love it, right? Like, there's they weed themselves out pretty quick. If they don't love it, they kind of go away. But somebody by their mid-20s, late 20s, that person really loves the racing and the grind. And unfortunately in the sport, it's just how it is. 99% of the people who do it, there's going to be more nights where you don't win than when you do. And I don't care who you are. Kyle Larson doesn't win them all. And for somebody like yourself, who's, obviously, fully committed. I mean, you moved to North Carolina, you moved to Indiana. What is it what part of it is it that drives you? Is it just being the best that you can be? Is that what really drives you? Is more yourself, like proving to yourself, or is it that you're like you got an end goal? If that
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Scott, it really, for me, what it is it's not only proving to myself, but I think you can, it's kind of pushing everybody else to be, that everybody on that track that's up in the front running is laying everything they got on the line. Because like you said, you have to be fully committed to the sport or else you kind of trickle out, So for me, when I walk into the racetrack, that those people are fighting with everything they have. And when you beat them, that means you just are that much better. And you fought that much harder for that night. And I think it's a grueling sport, like we have said, but it's a constant competition between you and yourself. And you have to make sure, I like also the aspect of you have to push your team because it's also a huge team sport. I couldn't do it without my dad and Kirk wrenching on the car and Brent as a team owner and, the sponsors behind it. I couldn't do it without them. It really is a team sport. And I think it takes people with like a winning mindset to win a race. And when you have that group of people behind you, that makes it successful. So I think that it's really fun and like cool. And that's part of one of the neatest things about motorsports racing is you get to see people down in the trenches. And then you also see them in victory when they get that little taste of winning. But also one win or one championship doesn't mean you're done. That's just one taste of success. You still have to work hard through the whole season, and you're working the shop, everything matters. And so it's a constant battle of like putting your best foot forward and making sure that you check all your boxes in the shop in preparation and then on race day too. So yeah.
It's really, and I've told people this, I've told a lot of young people this, that I had a race shop for 20 plus years, and we'd see like young family, younger kids come in and people with the dream and stuff like that. And I always would tell them, if you work as hard as you can, no matter the results, you'll never run across anything in life that's as tough as going racing.
Mm-hmm.
And being, and I firmly believe that. I mean, it's just, there's so much that goes into it. There's so much dedication, so much time. I mean, outside of being a parent, I guess I should say. But as far as anything else in your life that you're going to do, I just don't think there's anything tougher. Because unlike, say, music, like a band can tour, right? It's sort of like traveling to the races, but typically the band doesn't run the risk of destroying all their equipment, and then having to repair all of it to get to the next concert. And that's what racers face. And it's just, and I think, like you said, I think you just have to have that mindset that you're just going to overcome. Like in order to succeed, we have to overcome.
Yeah. And I think it's also really important to have that mindset and not only just fixate it of whatever the result of the race is, like I think that's you overcome a failure or you overcome successes, and I think that's really important because in racing, there are so many highs and lows. And so you got to let those lows, you got to learn from them and just let it run off your back like water and move on to the next, and keep digging. Like you can't get stuck on that one bad weekend or whatever. You'll have bad weekends, but you can always learn from them. So I think it's a hard one to keep and maintain, but I think that's really important to have that.
Right.
So obviously racing is a very physically demanding sport. What kind of training do you do when you're not racing?
I have recently, for last year, I've been doing CrossFit at a place 926 CrossFit. It's in North Carolina, but yeah, I've been doing CrossFit and I love it. It's just competitive, and you're in with a group of people, but that's what I tend to do. And if I don't have a gym available, I just go for a run or try to do something body weight work at the house.
Yeah, that's something that is of course today's cars have power steering, which back in the olden days they didn't, and they're somewhat easier to drive. But people don't realize, even a midget, how if you're up in the cushion and it's trying to rip the wheel out of your hand, and how physically demanding just even those cars are. And then you get a dirt late model where it's so hard on the right front, the steering gets real heavy. And I think there's this I think this has gone away, and we kind of brought up a while ago about being a woman in sport, and I feel like that is I feel like the term woman, like a woman race car driver, female race car driver, is going away, because um, the ability to start at such young ages and the ability to come up through the sport, you're now, everybody's just drivers. And I think the only aspect to that is the physical part, but it seems like that with the way the weight weight trainings are today and that sort of thing, that's something that can be overcome. Have you noticed a big difference in the way you drive today versus when you first started? Maybe you weren't doing CrossFit, although I know, like you said, you worked on the farm, tough work, hard, demanding work. So maybe you don't see much of a difference.
Thankfully, yeah, I was always, I was an athlete in school, and then I was working on the ranch, which was always outdoor, tougher work, I guess. So I was always pretty in shape, I guess, physically, but I'd say the endurance is the biggest thing. And I do notice a big difference with incorporating CrossFit and more cardio based stuff into my workouts and routines, that I don't get winded as easy. And I think that's been a huge benefit. And I think, for me anyways, as a woman, my upper body strength it wasn't as strong. And I know it took me a long time to be able to do even a pull up. And now, whether it be CrossFit or whatever, I feel that my upper body strength is way, way better. And that's been a huge factor.
Right. Do you ever do any kind of kart racing? I'm obviously outlaw karts, but indoor kart racing or outdoor kart racing, pavement?
No,
Really?
I haven't gotten the chance to do that yet. I plan to here soon. But yeah, no, I haven't, because we have GoPro Motorplex in North Carolina.
Right.
Yeah. So I plan to go out there and make some laps. But yeah.
Yeah, we don't have anything like that in Indy.
Well, we got
indoor.
They have
decent indoor places.
You got Whiteland. You got Whiteland, but those aren't so fast. But you do have
Newcastle.
Place.
Yeah, Newcastle.
So I mean, you can get a cart. I mean, you can do you can burn some serious laps at Newcastle. That's a great track too, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
As we kind of wind this down, I personally have watched you race a few times. I've seen you run the BC 39 and that sort of thing. I think you're extremely talented. And I think that, but the West Coast, how many races would you get a year out there? 18?
Yeah,
maybe
at most. We wouldn't even go to half the shows because they were so far. So
right, and that's and the gas prices and everything kind of going on. That's really sad because California has such a great racing history, and it's hard to go racing in California right now. It's very
Absolutely.
hard.
Absolutely.
But you're back here and you're looking at roughly a 40 race schedule.
Yep.
So is you're kind of looking forward to it, do you have goals like where you want to be at certain points in this year? Like, because I would say I'm spitballing here, by roughly early June, you're going to be about where you normally would have been your whole season.
Yeah. Yeah.
So do you kind of have like markers in your mind, kind of, hey, I need to be doing this by this and this by that?
Yeah, absolutely. I do. And I'm always a little bit hard on myself, I think. So, I always want to be there yesterday, but I know that's not the case. However, I am really looking forward to having 35 to 40 races this year because I haven't had that amount since the go-kart days, honestly. And the key is like out here, you have 35 to 40 races back to back to back to back. Out on the West Coast, we'd race once and then wait a month, race again, wait another month, So I'm really looking forward to being in the car almost every weekend. I think that's going to be huge. And I can't wait to learn so many new things and just be in that race car.
Well, I think the one thing you're going to really get a chance to learn too is, especially as you go through those tracks, like you mentioned Farmer City, and I'm sure Jacksonville, and I mean, just all those tracks over there. I don't know if they run Lincoln or not, but anyway, they is it different surfaces, the different conditions, and the different competitors, because then because you got to start kind of building your book in your mind, how this person races, how that person races, how that person's driving, and I think I think by the end of the year you'll be pretty surprised of how much further down the road you are than you even think you can be, because you've got so much repetition by that point.
Yeah, I surely hope so. But yeah, it will be very interesting to see how well the team and I can adjust to all the different tracks that we've never been at, that we've never seen, and race against people that we've never raced against. So it'll be fun. It's going to be a huge learning experience for all of us. But we're excited and I think we're ready for it. We're prepared. And yeah, I think I know that we're ready for whatever it brings.
Well, Maria, I enjoyed watching your dad race. I've enjoyed watching you race. I plan on going to a lot more midget races this year than I have in the last few years. So I hopefully I get to watch you run a lot this year. And I personally wish you nothing but the best. And I hope to see you get some of those big checks and be able to hang those on the wall for all the effort that you guys are putting in.
I'll get you a lot of steak at Prime 47 with those checks.
Yeah.
Yeah, hopefully that's the game plan. So we'll see. Yeah, hopefully we can see you guys and everybody else at the racetrack, and it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's starting here soon too. Man, it's amazing how quickly it comes on. I remember this time of year, it would be about mid-March, and then depending on where your shop was, all of a sudden you can hear, just in the distance, you'd hear somebody push off, and you hear somebody's sprint car start, or somebody's modified or something, and it's just funny living around here. You get to kind of pick up all those noises and that. So again, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. You've been an absolute joy to talk to.
Awesome. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Aaron. And we'll talk to you guys soon.
All right, sounds
Take
good.
care.
Thanks.
Yeah. Bye.